Queen, and welcome to another edition of Color Me Poetry. Today I'd like to welcome my guest, and the brother's an artist of the highest order, and his name is none other than Larry Poncho Brown. How you get the Poncho in your name?
Poncho is just a childhood nickname that was given to me when I was a child. It has really no significance, but you know, sometimes in the black community they label you with a name, and for some reason you run with it. But I ended up using it because my dad was an artist too, and it gave me a separate identity. So
it seems to flow.
Well, yeah, people remember it. If they don't remember anything else, they remember the name, even though a lot of people think I'm a Mexican.
Yeah. People go, that's that Poncho brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've admired your work, brother, for many years, and the things that you're doing, because it's different. The type of art that you do is different. Were you influenced by your father in what you're doing?
As far as the interest, yeah. I was motivated by watching what he was doing at the time, because I came up at a time when he used to participate in a lot of the local art exhibitions in Baltimore and in Washington, D.C. And so it had a direct influence on me.
You were a little kid?
Yeah, I've been drawing since the age of about 4. So, I mean, and interest came kind of early.
Was it something that you always knew that you had, or...
I think that for every child, you don't realize it. I mean, in the kindergarten, everybody was given a box of crayons and pencils, and we all did the same kind of drawings, but some of us stuck with it and some of us stopped, and I think that's the real difference.
I remember being in school, man, I couldn't draw nothing. Everything, especially shop class, you make things with your hands.
Yeah, but I think that what also happens is that in kindergarten, both our drawings looked alike. What we saw was two different things, and your interest level was probably different than mine.
Yeah, that's right, and that's probably a very big factor also, the interest level. You won't have the interest or the discipline for certain things.
Exactly. I mean, everybody has I feel like we all have a gift. We all have an interest that's given to us, and either we find it or we don't, or either we perpetuate it or we don't.
So what do friends and relatives think of you as a child when you started to really get into art?
Well, I think I'm no different than most children. Most parents think it's nice. Most teachers think it's nice, but nobody nurtures you to do it.
Yeah, when did you start to take it serious, though?
I had a middle school teacher by the name of David Humphreys. He was the first person that really said, hey, look, this is not a game. This is not something to play with. You may have something here if you work on it, but you have to become serious. And I think I was at the age then where I was still playing around, and more or less art was a way to get over with the teachers and everybody else. So, but he was the first one that it really made me begin to harness on my creativity.
Were there other artists that had influence on you besides your father?
I think at that point there was one other guy that my father was a friend of my father's, who was a really well-known artist in Baltimore called Thomas Dockett, and he works with the Afro paper. He does the cartooning for the paper. And I think at that time he really influenced me. He was probably one of the more realistic artists I had ever met at that point, and he's still painting today.
There's so much happening nowadays with black art. It seems to be very, very popular. For all the galleries and things that are pushing, promoting black art, it seems to be a renaissance, if you will.
Well, I think it is, but I think that we can't forget that black art has always been around. It's been accepted across the board at different points in history, but it's a different time now. I think that one reason why it's so important is that so many of us now have a different awareness about who we are and where we come from, that maybe back in the Harlem Renaissance it was a little different. They were working with different energies than we're working with now.
Different mediums.
Right, and I think that it's just a totally different thing now.
But your art reflects so much in the black experience, though. I mean, what do people say about that? Why do you feel it necessary to reflect, that experience, if you will?
Well, I think that it's natural. That's why it's the easiest thing to do. I mean, some of my earlier art was not a depiction of who I am and who my history. It was just something from something else. And I think that once you turn it inside, of course, you come up with much more meaningful and much more beautiful art, I think.
So you would say your art is conscious decision?
Yes, it is. And I think my art, I've taken an approach with my art that a lot of artists have used also. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel. I think that one thing I've made a choice to do is to show some more contemporary themes, more everyday people themes. Okay, a lot of people in the black art market, and particularly you see a lot of southern church scenes, a lot of religious scenes, because that's something that's important to us. You see a lot of mother and child themes, because that's something that happens in our community. You see a lot of old southern scenes. You see a lot of slavery scenes. You see a lot of things that are depictions of our past history, but you see very little of the contemporary African American. So my approach has been to really harness the contemporary African American, the everyday people in my work.
And that's so very important, though, isn't it? Also, just to show ordinary people doing ordinary things every day?
Well, I think it's important because we are not all basketball. We're not all singing.
That's right.
We're not all tap dancing. We are a conglomeration of different things. So, as for me, I've been addressing things that are sensitive subjects, ways to depict things that we may not talk about, but we can look at and say, hey, look, maybe this may mean something. I mean, the piece that's on the set today called Gradations is an example. Gradations, it evolved from a series I was working with racism. We talk about racism outside of our group, but we don't deal with racism within our group. There are light complective people and there are dark complective people. And I wanted to try to show a harmonious image of all of us being the same thing, nothing more important than the other, and all of us in a beautiful setting. So that Harmony series, my most popular piece is entitled Black is Black, and that piece is probably one of the top 5 black-selling African-American prints in the country. And I think it's not because of the image, it's because of the message that's in the piece. I mean, most people look at it, they see 3 different shades of African-Americans, and they automatically say, whoa, I got to have that.
That's funny because, it's something that until I saw some of your pieces like this, I hadn't really thought about it in that way. So you made me think about things that I haven't thought about in that same way. Because
we don't think about it every day. I mean, for me, when I was in school, a youngster, it was not very popular to be very dark complective. It was popular to be very light complective. And I think in each person from each generation can tell you where the shift was. But as we become more in tune with who we are, we're finding that now we're beginning to think that because you're darker, you're better than. And it really doesn't help our group at all. It's a way of separating ourselves.
Spike Lee dealt with that in his movie also, didn't he? School Days.
Yes, he did. You'll find a lot of people in different mediums deal with it. It's in a lot of music, too.